Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on a journey into one of the most, well, beloved and influential works of the 20th century, J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Our mission is to go beyond just the familiar tales of hobbits and elves. We're going to unpack its surprising creation, the challenges it faced just to get published, its initially rather mixed reception, and the undeniable, really far-reaching impact it continues to have. We've drawn from a fantastic set of sources, mainly Wikipedia, to guide us.
Exactly. And this isn't just a story. It's really a foundational text. It didn't just shape an entire genre. It fundamentally permeated global culture in ways that, frankly, very few books ever manage. We're here to explore why that is.
Okay, so let's unpack this massive achievement. The Lord of the Rings isn't simply a fantasy novel. It's arguably the defining epic high fantasy work, set in the incredibly detailed world of Middle-earth. And what's fascinating is that it started out, well, much smaller. It began as a sequel to Tolkien's 1937 children's book, The Hobbit, but, as we all know, it grew into something much, much larger. Far darker, too.
Immensely larger, yes.
The core conflict, for anyone needing a quick refresher, revolves around the Dark Lord Sauron and his creation, the One Ring, this ultimate artifact of power designed to control all the other rings given to elves, dwarves, and men.
His bid for total dominion over Middle-earth, essentially.
Precisely. And the quest itself starts in the Shire, this idyllic, very English countryside place. Following hobbits, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, they get help from the iconic Company of the Ring.
Gandalf, Aragorn, Boromir, Legolas, Gimli. A classic fellowship.
Right, this diverse group united ultimately to try and destroy the ring in the fires of Mount Doom, deep in Sauron's own territory.
And the structure of the book itself is interesting. We all call it a trilogy, don't we?
Almost universally, yeah.
But Tolkien actually saw it as a single volume. That was his intention. He even wanted it published alongside the Silmarillion, his deeper mythology.
Really? I didn't know that was the original plan.
Yes, but for purely economic reasons, printing costs were sky high back then, and the publisher, Allen and Unwin, was frankly a bit nervous about the risk they split it.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
So it came out as The Fellowship of the Ring in July 54, The Two Towers in November 54, and The Return of the King in October 55. And even within those, it's technically divided into 6 books, 2 per volume. Plus, you have those incredibly dense appendices.
Oh, the appendices, genealogies, languages.
Yeah. Timelines, linguistic notes. It's all presented in this very scholarly, almost, antiquarian style. It really adds to the depth.
It makes it feel like real history.
That was the idea. It's presented as if it's a translation of an ancient document, the Red Book of Westmarch, tying it into this vast fictional history Tolkien had been building for decades.
Which brings us to how it was actually created. This wasn't just dashed off, was it? It was part of his larger mythopoeia.
Not at all. This was his life's work in many ways. That mythology, which includes the Silmarillion, he'd been developing since, believe it or not, 1917.
Wow, that early.
Yes. He only started The Lord of the Rings proper, what he initially called A New Hobbit, in December 1937, because his publishers basically persuaded him after the Tolkienage. The Hobbit did surprisingly well. But the writing was slow. Painfully slow at times. Remember, he was a full-time Oxford professor.
Right, he had a day job.
A demanding one. Lots of drafts, constant revisions. He actually gave up on it entirely for most of 1943.
No way.
Yes, only restarted in April 44. And here's a nice detail. He started sending chapters as a serial to his son Christopher, who was serving in the RAF in South Africa.
Oh, that's wonderful, like installments.
Exactly, getting feedback too. The main story was effectively done by 1948, but then revisions took another year. The sheer volume of work, the original manuscripts are something like 9,250 pages.
9,000 pages, that's staggering.
It really is. It's world building on an epic scale.
And something else that stands out, especially for a novel from that era, is the poetry. There's so much of it.
Over 60 pieces. Songs, riddles, prophecies, laments.
And scholars argue it's not just like decoration, right? It's integral.
Absolutely essential. Aesthetically, thematically. It adds layers of meaning, develops characters, fleshes out the history. Tolkien was a skilled poet, and you could feel that technique even in his prose. Even Tom Bombadil speaks in meter.
I never realized that about Bombadil. Okay, so where did all this come from? What were the big influences?
Well, his day job, philology, the study of languages and their history was huge. Old English literature, especially Beowulf, you can see echoes of that everywhere.
In the Orcs and Elves, maybe?
Definitely. but also mythology from all over. Norse sagas like the Volsunga saga, the Finnish Kalevala, bits of Celtic and Greek myth too. He wasn't just borrowing, he was weaving them together.
Synthesizing them.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And then there's Christianity. It's woven deeply into the fabric of the story, but subtly. Themes of hope, sacrifice, redemption. Some even identify Christ figures.
But it's not overt allegory, which he famously disliked.
Exactly. And crucially, his own life. His childhood in the English countryside, Sarehole Mill, seeing it become more urbanized. That's the Shire versus encroaching industrialization right there.
And, of course, the First World War.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. His experiences in the trenches, the mechanization, the brutality that directly informs Sauron, Mordor, the orcs. Orcs is these sort of brutalized, dehumanized cogs in a war machine. It's a powerful critique.
So with all these threads, mythology, language, war, faith, what would you say is the absolute core theme, if Tolkien had to pick one?
He actually stated it himself. He said the central theme was death and immortality, the beauty and sorrow of mortality, the long defeat.
That's quite profound.
It is. But alongside that, you obviously have good versus evil, fate versus free will, and maybe most relevant today, the corrupting nature of power. The ring itself is this perfect symbol of that addiction.
It really resonates. Now, you mentioned earlier the reception was mixed. What were some of those early criticisms? It seems hard to imagine now.
Well, some critics complained about a lack of significant women, which, when you look closer, feels a bit unfair given the roles of Galadriel, Éowyn, and Arwen. They are powerful figures.
Éowyn especially, facing the Witch King.
Exactly. Others claimed it lacked modern relevance. It was just escapism. But as we said, even the Shire isn't perfect. It shows the impact of outside forces of, well, modernity creeping in.
And the religion point.
Some said it lacked religion, but as we discuss, the Christian themes are there, just woven in subtly. And importantly, Tolkien was fiercely anti-racist. Middle-earth is deliberately polycultural, diverse peoples uniting. He was writing against the backdrop of Nazi Germany, remember. That context matters.
That absolutely counters the racism accusations sometimes leveled at fantasy. Okay, let's talk about actually getting this beast published. It wasn't straightforward, was it?
Not at all. Almost as epic as the quest itself. He first took it to William Collins, hoping they'd publish the Silmarillion with it.
The whole package deal.
Right. But Collins wanted major cuts to Lord of the Rings, so Tolkien eventually went back to Allen and Unwin, who had published The Hobbit. There was real doubt it would ever get printed.
And that's where the trilogy decision happened, purely for cost reasons.
Precisely. Minimize the risk. Typesetting was incredibly expensive. Tolkien himself wasn't keen on the title, The Return of the King, felt it gave too much away.
Interesting. What did he prefer?
He had titles for the internal books, like The Ring Sets Out, The War of the Ring. Even The Two Towers was a title he sort of settled on. Its meaning wasn't immediately obvious.
Okay, this next bit is wild. The unauthorized Ace Books paperback in the U.S.
Oh yeah, that was a huge mess, but also kind of amazing. Ace Books basically exploited a loophole in U.S. copyright law at the time because the U.S. publisher, Houghton Mifflin, hadn't properly secured it for the hardback.
So they just printed it without permission.
Yep, cheap paperback, no royalties to Tolkien. But then the fans got involved. This was the mid-'60s. The book was becoming a counterculture phenomenon.
Frodo lives.
Exactly. Buttons, letters, boycotts. The grassroots pressure was so intense that Ace Books had to back down, withdraw their edition, and make a token payment.
That's incredible fan power.
It really was. And it pushed Tolkien to revise the text for an authorized second edition in 1965, which finally nailed down the U.S. copyright. It showed just how passionate the readership already was.
So how was it received initially by the critics beyond those specific points we mentioned?
It was really polarized. You had rave reviews like W.H. Auden, Tolkien's former student, calling it a masterpiece. The Sunday Telegraph said it was among the greatest works of imaginative fiction of the 20th century. High praise. But then you had critics like Edwin Muir saying the characters will never come to puberty. Ouch. And the most famous negative review was probably Edmund Wilson's, "Ooh, those awful orcs." He called it juvenile trash.
Wow. Juvenile trash. That's harsh.
Very. But then you have C.S. Lewis, his close friend, who completely got it. He wrote, "Here are beauties which pierce like swords or burn like cold iron, a book which will break your heart." He saw the depth.
So, despite the critics and no initial paperback, it sold okay.
The hardbacks did surprisingly well, yes. But the real explosion came later, particularly in the U.S. in the 1960s, on college campuses. It just took off, became a phenomenon.
And that popularity just kept growing.
Massively. International Fantasy Award in '57. Consistently voted most popular book in surveys, BBC poll in the UK in '03. Similar results in Germany, Australia. Amazon customers called it Book of the Millennium in '99. It went from controversial niche work to global cornerstone.
Which brings us neatly to its legacy. It's been adapted into pretty much everything, hasn't it?
Just about. Radio adaptations were crucial early on, especially the BBC ones in '55 and '81, reaching people before the big films.
And the films. Well, Peter Jackson changed the game.
Absolutely. There were earlier animated attempts, Bakshi's in '78, Rankin Bass's Return of the King in '80, even a bizarre lost Soviet TV version from '91 called Kranatelli.
I have heard about that one with Tom Bombadil.
Apparently so. But Jackson's trilogy, 2001-2003, was a cultural event. Groundbreaking effects, huge scale. Return of the King winning 11 Oscars, including Best Picture. Unprecedented for fantasy.
And it continues with the Rings of Power series, the upcoming anime War of the Rohirrim.
Right, plus audiobooks. Rob Inglis did a classic version, and recently Andy Serkis Gollum himself recorded fantastic versions after doing that charity readathon during lockdown.
His Gollum voice reading the whole thing must be something. And music, too.
Loads. Donald Swan said Tolkien's poems beautifully. Rock bands like Led Zeppelin famously referenced Middle-earth in songs like Ramble On, Misty Mountain Hop.
Yeah, classic rock staples.
Bo Hansen did instrumental albums. Johann de May composed a whole symphony. Even Enya contributed to the Jackson film soundtracks. It seeped into music across the board.
And that boom in popularity fueled the fantasy genre itself, didn't it?
Oh, massively. It arguably created the modern fantasy market as we know it. The demand exploded in the '60s. You got countless books trying to capture that same magic, some more derivative than others.
Like Sword of Shannara.
That's a famous example, yes.
Yeah.
Often called a ripoff, but it shows the template Tolkien established. Elves, dwarves, quests, dark lords. It became the blueprint.
And gaming. That seems like another huge area of impact.
Huge. The Legend of Zelda, Miyamoto has cited Tolkien. And Dungeons and Dragons. Absolutely fundamental.
Halflings, elves, dwarves, orcs.
Straight from Tolkien. Gary Gygax, D&D's co-creator, basically admitted he put them in partly as a marketing ploy because Lord of the Rings was so popular it hooked people in. And from D&D came decades of role-playing games, video games. The lineage is direct.
The cultural footprint is just everywhere, sometimes in ways we don't even notice.
Completely. Those phrases from the '60s, Frodo lives,
Yeah.
Gandalf for president, the words Tolkienian, Tolkienesque, are in the dictionary now. Terms like orc, warg, they're just part of the fantasy lexicon.
Even the parodies, like Board of the Rings, still in print since '69. That shows staying power.
It really does. And merchandising. Tolkien sold the rights back in 1969 for, I think, £10,000. Peanuts, considering the billion-dollar industry it is today.
Wow. He couldn't have imagined.
Not in his wildest dreams, probably.
So there we have it, our deep dive into the Lord of the Rings. From the intricate story to the painstaking creation, the publishing struggles, the mixed reviews that gave way to global adoration, and this unbelievable, enduring legacy. It's so much more than just a book. It really is a world.
It truly is. And maybe the final thought is, what does this tell us about us? About the power of a single person's imagination, fueled by ancient languages and myths, and scarred by modern war. That it could create something so vast, so detailed, so loved, that it continues to inspire films, games, music, generations of readers.
It speaks volumes about our need for stories like this.
Exactly. Our need for myth, for epic narratives, for these richly imagined worlds where good and evil clash in profound ways. It's a testament to the enduring power of storytelling itself.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you discover something new and intriguing about the enduring magic of the Lord of the Rings.